And no decision yet on whether 2 Erie newspapers will be allowed to print the name of a man claiming he got AIDS during a blood transfusion at an Erie hospital. The 2 papers have asked a common pleas court judge to lift an injunction stopping them from printing the man's name. The 62-year-old man is apparently preparing to sue the Hamlet Medical Center and the Community Blood Bank of Erie. He claims he contracted AIDS in 1985 from a blood transfusion during an operation to repair his ankle. A judge in Erie, Pennsylvania will decide tomorrow if newspapers or television stations have the right to identify somebody with AIDS if that person wants to remain anonymous. An Erie newspaper wants to publish the name of a 62-year-old AIDS patient who received AIDS-contaminated blood in 1985. Now, the lawyer representing the patient says his client's privacy would be violated if his name was printed.
I just don't see what business it is of the public's that this man, has the misfortune of contracting that disease. He's not some public official, elected official. He's not a well-known person. He's an average Joe in the street. And I guess our point is that, at least in this country, there are certain things that are simply so private that they're nobody else's business.
Now, the AIDS patient, who has not yet been identified publicly, has already filed legal papers indicating he plans to sue the hospital in Erie where he received the AIDS-tainted blood.
A judge up in Erie has ruled that 2 papers in that city can publish the name of an AIDS victim who was suing a hospital that allegedly gave him AIDS-infected blood. However, the Pittsburgh attorney for the 69-year-old man says the judge warned the newspapers they could still face other legal action if they publish the name.
It's up to them to decide if they want to publish this gentleman's name. If they go ahead and publish it, they do so at their own risk. He made it very clear that they may be violating his right to privacy.
Now, the case has been watched by several Pittsburgh groups concerned not only about the right to know, but also about the effect it might have on prospective blood donors and blood recipients. More on that now from Stu Emery.
In the Erie case, the man bringing the lawsuit claims the hospital gave him the AIDS-tainted blood, even though screening tests were available. The Central Blood Bank of Pittsburgh says it couldn't happen here. They've been using AIDS testing for donors ever since the technique was made available in early 1985. The blood bank says its screening procedures make it virtually impossible for AIDS-infected blood to get to a blood recipient.
There's a lot of ambiguity about AIDS, a lot of unknowns. But this is one place where medical science has won the battle. The blood supply is now safe. Donors are screened, units are tested. We're not seeing AIDS transmitted by blood transfusion now. Certainly there were cases in the past.
Here in Pittsburgh, the AIDS Task Force says such rulings can only have a chilling effect on other AIDS victims who almost certainly would be afraid to go to court now for fear their names would be publicly disclosed. The task force sponsors a 24-hour hotline and says though many of the questions it answers are medical in nature, they also get many calls from AIDS victims who fear that to go public in a court of law would be as bad as having the disease itself.
We have many people who don't file complaints, who do not pursue lawsuits or actions when they probably should have and have had very good cases because they feared public disclosure.
The task force says the newspaper's responsibility is a moral and ethical one and questions who would be served by publishing an AIDS victim's name. Stu Emery, KDKA Eyewitness News.
By late this afternoon, the newspapers had not yet decided if they would publish the AIDS patient's name.